Hey, welcome back. My name is Sean. This is 369 VNP. This is my mountain bike. Excuse the seat, and I like a little bit more comfortable seat. I switch it in and out. I still got the small seat hanging up right above the camera here. And I'll switch it out if I'm going to go racing down a hill or anything. Like I feel like I'm 16 again. But this is my mountain bike. It is a nice machine. It's great. I like it. It's a Giant Stance. What year? Any other stuff besides that? I don't know, and I can't remember. I've had it for quite a while now. 6, 7 years, something like that. It's a pretty hefty machine. I purposely, saved up and went out and just bought it off the showroom floor. And I had them install a whole bunch of stuff on it that I wanted that I never had before on a bike, like shocks and pegs. I wanted to feel lucky. Name that movie reference. That's your first quiz. So anyway, depending on what kind of bike you have, all the maintenance is generally the same. I'm going to go over some stuff with you. I have my wife's bike right over here. It's a Walmart Huffy. She rides once in a while. We'll go on a little bike ride together, but she doesn't get crazy with it. So it's a little mountain bike. So if we go down the trails and stuff, that it has some grip and has some comfortability to it. But she stands about 4'11". So we have trouble finding a right size bike for her. She liked the colors on this. It was decent. Being that it's a Walmart bike and I know what to look for and how to fix and try to get it back up to as par as possible. It's been a work in progress, but I think we got to a point where it's comfortable for her to ride now. I'll show you some stuff on that as well. I'm just going to go over some basic maintenance. I want to show you guys just, you want to go ahead and go give this thing a wash. You're going to want to do things like lube up the chain, and you're going to want to just inspect things. Bear with me. This is a video that I am filming after I worked on a minivan for my little brother, where I replaced an alternator that was in a very tough to get to spot. Laying on my back in all sorts of awkward positions, pulling out the battery and the alternator and everything. So I did something to my left lower back, pulling muscle or something, and it's kind of bugging me. So if I'm standing weird or it's feeling off. And again, allergies are bugging me. We still have a lot of fire smoke in the area from someone that set off a fire here recently. Past that, I'm going to do what I can here to show you guys a good time, and we're going to go ahead and get this thing going. So join me. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to set up the stand. I'm going to show you about the stand. You can get these kind of stands off the interwebs there, or I don't think they have them at Wally World, but you could probably go down to a bike shop, not a motorcycle, but a pedal bike shop, and they'll have stuff like this. So now I'll go ahead and go over some differences in detail between my bike and my wife's bike, and I'll show you that here in a second. But again, keep in mind that I had basic generic bikes before I got this, just generic mountain bikes. The one bike I had when I was growing up that my dad passed down to me was a pretty nice little bike. I think it was a Ross, but it's very lightweight. It's pretty state of the art for like 1990, 1990. It was about that year. He stopped riding it for whatever reason, and it was just sitting there. So my bike went down, and I was like, "Can I ride your bike?" He's like, whatever. So I just started riding it, man, and I rode it. I still have it. It's in disrepair right now because some of the cables broke. And back when I was broke and I was 20 years old, and I didn't know how to fix it or what to do with it. But I wanted to hang on to it because it was such a nice bike, and it still is. So I'm probably going to fix that thing back up, and I'll take you guys with me on that journey as well. So anyway, enough talk about that. This is a Giant Stance. The brand is Giant. The model is a Stance. Does it come with all these bells and whistles? Not particularly, but it had enough of the main structure that I could add to it. So this is a 1x12. What that means is on the gears here, there's one gear on the front, and then there's 12 on the back. I don't have a gear selector over here for my front like you would on some other bikes, like you'll see on my wife's bike. I have 12 gears on the rear only. Okay, so I just switch up and down between them, and that's kind of nice actually. So I don't have to worry about much. There's a lot of buttons, a lot of things going on up here. I actually have hydraulic disc brakes on this, so that's something I wanted to get. There's brand name gear and stuff that you can get, from shocks to the gear selector to the type of brakes you have. One of them is SRAM. The other one is Shimano or SRAM. I can't remember the name of the brakes. Let me look at it. Shimano, Shimano. So Shimano brakes, SRAM gear selector, and then they have a whole bunch of different ones. Both companies do both other things too. So the other thing I wanted front shocks and rear shocks. So on the rear shock, what that does is it's a pivot point right here that allows, I don't know if you can see that at all, how that pivots. I got it turned up high because at the time I was weighing a bit much more, but and I carry a backpack with me where I go, and it has weight in it like water and whatnot like that. As far as setting one of these shocks, I can show you guys how to do that too. There's different, you're going to see on my wife's bike over here, it's a spring. So it's a different kind of adjustment, and you adjust it per your weight. And you know, you want to put everything on, you want to put the backpack and everything on that you're wearing. And then you want to get on your bike and prop yourself up against something and feel the bounce on it. You just kind of want to go off of that. And then there's other factors, and you want to set the PSI. This is an air shock. You want to set the PSI here. These are also air shocks. And then you can let the air in and out as you go along. And then they have fine tune adjusters on them as well. So you can see this red tab right here, this red knob, twister knob. You can fine tune that a little bit as you're going down the road for different adjustment, different scenarios. And what I like about, and the front shock has it too, but it's at the bottom down here. I don't know if you can see it, but you will when we get on the rack here. It allows you to set the pressure as well, allows you to fine tune it. The other cool feature about the front shock is, even though you'll always have rear shock, when you're trying to pedal and you're like going up a hill, one thing that can take away your kind of momentum and your force and your pedal stroke as you're trying to push down is the front will do this. And then it takes away some of your oomph trying to get up a hill, right? So what you can do until you go down a hill, you can flick this little blue lever here, and it says open and lock on it. What that does is it locks up the front shock. So now it's unlocked. So if I go the other way, it's pretty locked, okay? That's kind of a nice feature. And then when you're going down the hill, you can do that. And you can see my tire's pretty low because it's been sitting over the winter. It's another reason you're going to check that as well. That's what the shocks are on it. This is just a little bike pump right here. Now this is my selector. You can see how it, I push this button and it goes up. I push this with my thumb, the other button right here, it releases. And it releases per section per gear, or rises per gear. I'll show you how to set that up as well. It's kind of tricky, but when you really look at it and really get to do it, it's pretty simple. You need a bike stand like this, so that way when you're turning your gears, this isn't something that you can do when it's upside down. You have to have it on a bike stand, be turning the wheel, because you have to be right there with the action and watch it, and turn screws down there that will adjust it. There's screws that keep it from the chain coming off the low end or the high end, and there's screws that will stop it from doing that. There's other screws that will set it so it lines up on each gear as you hit that switch perfectly. My wife's bike is kind of the same way too, but she's got a twist knob for both gears, front and rear. Those are fine too. Then there's the old school bikes that have the knobs up here where you push and pull, or down below or whatever. Now you can set these up however you want, wherever you want. It makes for a nice ride. You know, you don't really have to think about much. You can just switch and go and adjust it accordingly to if you're going uphill or downhill, or how tired you are, or just how bad your knees are, or anything like that. I got special pedals on here that have spikes sticking out of them. And they're not spikes, but they're grippies. They're metal tabs that stick out. When I'm riding, my foot doesn't slip off here. Just my foot kind of stays locked on there. You know, so even if it starts raining, I don't go. As far as the seat that I'm leaning on here, it's got a nice feature on it too. You'll notice I have this other button over here. On this side of the handle right here, there's this little button that if I push down, it doesn't seem to do anything. You can see that cable flex right there on the front, indicating it's trying to do something. It actually routes and comes back into here, and the seat is a hydraulic seat. So when I go and I start riding downhill and everything, and I don't want this bumping into my butt and the other parts, just imagine my weight sitting on there. I just sit on it and push that button and hold it down, and it goes all the way down. I let up on the button, it stays there. And then when I go to pedal up a hill, or then I can put it down too. Or if I'm just cruising down the street and I just want to, on a flat road, I just want to pedal for a minute and I want to sit down, then all I have to do is do that. So we'll try that again. So this is essentially what it does if I hold down the button. Okay, so it's just a hydraulic lift. Again, like I said before, I have disc brakes on this guy. I don't know if you can see that right there. These disc brakes are pretty slick. They lock up pretty quick. Just like on a car, it's just two disc pads that pinch in on the rotor. You maintain them pretty much the same way. If they get any kind of grease and oils from riding it, going down the road, or from the chain lube or anything like that, you're going to want to clean that off. And there's ways to do that too. I can show you that as well. Other than that, grips, The type of seat you get, the type of tires you get, that's all preference. That's all what you want to do and what you're going to ride in and what you're going to do the most in it. Okay. And you may not know that until you get out and start riding and just doing stuff and trying different things. And you may find you just like to aim straight down a mountain. Well, then you're going to want to adjust this to handle that. You may just want to ride down Main Street in your local town, or just go to a park or something like that. Adjust it for that. And there's different types of bikes for that as well. Cruisers, 10 speeds, things like that. Ones that just don't even have any gears. And now there's all these electric bikes out there. It's kind of cheating. I mean, at least people are getting out and going for a bike ride kind of deal. But the whole purpose for this to me is to get exercise. And for you drummers out there, this is the best double pedal action leg building tool that you can have. Get on this and go ride. When you come back and you give it a couple of days to heal up your legs from a bike ride, like, a pretty good hefty bike ride on one of these, go try doing double pedal then. Yeah, you're going to have some Vinnie Paul, John Paul action going on. Even Alex Van Halen was kind of beefy. Nick Menza from Megadeth, man, he was a mountain bike rider. Have you heard Sweating Bullets? Have you heard a lot of, Foreclosure of a Dream, Symphony of Destruction, like any of the stuff that he does double pedal on, Euthanasia, any of those albums where Nick Menza plays on? Listen to that stuff. It's a powerhouse, man. His double pedal action on the kick drums. He was riding mountain bikes, and yeah, that was getting him the umph, because you build those kind of muscles. Anyway, that's about it for this bike. I'm going to show you some comparisons. So I'm going to go ahead and sit it back against the stand and lean it here. I'm going to bring my wife's bike over and show you that. Here's a couple other features to this bike. I'll show you once we get it on the stand, like how the tires come off on here. As you'll see on my wife's bike, it's different. So on this, it has levers on the side of the wheels. On the back side, it's on this side. So I'll show you the front, because there's this little lever that I flip down. And then you can see on the other side, there's just this peg. Well, what it does is it allows these little, you'll have to see it. I'll get it on the stand. I'll show you how it works. I'll get a close-up shot. But basically, you flip that lever and it loosens this side. So then you can pull it through, and then you can just slip the tire off. But when you go to put it back on, you got to make sure that the rotor itself can get in between the two discs when you're sliding it up onto there, and you want to make sure everything's straight. And I can show you that as well. My wife's bike, it is going to be different. She has different brakes, different gearing system, different shock system, a bunch of different stuff. So let's get that, and I'll show you that. Okay. This is my wife's bike. Again, she's 4'11". I'm 5'11". There's going to be a difference in size, but it doesn't matter if you're an adult or you're a kid. Everything I'm going to show you, anybody can do. Bicycling is great for any age. It really helps us out. Us middle-aged people, between being a kid and being elderly or older in life, where things calm down, kids move out, your job's good or done or over or whatever, and so you got more casual, leisurely time, and you start bike riding again. Well, it's like riding a bike. You just get back on and start pedaling. Well, not so much, because I stopped riding my bike probably in my early 20s, and I didn't start riding it again until I think I was about 38. The last 6-7 years I've been riding again, and it's great. I don't ride as often as I should, but I want to. I'm going to get back more into that now that I'm a little bit more freed up with time here. When you're working 60-hour weeks, 50 to 60-hour weeks with a trucking company, you're pretty exhausted, and your legs are pretty thrashed from getting in and out of semi-trucks and loaders and a whole bunch of stuff like that. My wife needed a bike where she could ride it occasionally, so she didn't need nothing fancy and special like I got. She's not going to get as wild and crazy with it as I am, but she's going to ride with me down some, basic trails and stuff like that. Basically where you see me go on my walks and stuff. What we got here is we got a couple different things. So on her front shocks, she's got no locker, but they're just kind of preset. There's no way to air these up. There's no way to adjust these or anything like that. They're just, they kind of are what they are. It still provides her a lot of nice cushion. When we get older, our joints and our shoulders and our back and our arms and our legs and our knees and our hips all need a little bit more protection than when we were a kid. Probably should be better when we're a kid too, so that way we're not bad when we're older. On my rear shock, it's air driven like that, and hers is set up different. Mine is straight up and down. Hers is set up so you can see there's this gap here between the seat where this normally goes all the way down and just forms a triangle. Okay, well, they cut out that middle triangle part and then just attach these two frames together, but then the whole back section becomes its own triangle. So you have two triangles together, right? And so now they're just kind of pivoted there. They're pivoted down here by the pedals. They can just kind of go like that. And this shock put in between these 2 points. So you got the black frame and then you got the blue frame and you got the shock that goes between the two, okay? Where mine's straight up and down and has this whole different oscillation thing. Her design is a little bit more simplified. When you look at this, this is just a spring. This is not air. And this little turn knob here, you'll have to get some channel lock pliers because it's pretty tough, but it's a pretty stout spring. So you're going to want to be careful with that. If you over tighten it and it snaps, it's gonna go wild. Very rare and almost impossible to do that. So you just turn this and adjust it again for the weight of yourself plus a backpack or whatever kind of clothes and boots or whatever you're gonna have on, right? Well, you shouldn't be riding with boots. That's how you adjust that shock, but the front shocks are not adjustable. But still, it provides a lot of cushion, a lot of support. It's quite nice. Her seat is just a lock where it's just this handle, that lever, you flip that out, and then you can twist it and it'll loosen it up, and then you can wiggle the seat up and down and put it to where it's comfortable. And I'll show you guys where you should adjust your seat to so it's comfortable. There's a couple different positions, but do what works best for you, your knees, your hip, your back, everything. But I'll show you what is suggested, and then I'll show you what I do. This is adjusted for her, so it's most comfortable, so she can still reach the ground, and so she has pretty much full extension on the pedals as well. You don't want it so high that when you stop, like when you're a kid and you're on a big mountain bike and you're like 7, that you fall off, you know, because you can't reach the ground. But you don't want it sitting so low, you're kind of like a low rider, you know, and I see people do that with BMXs and stuff. That's fine, it's a style. If you want good exercise and don't want to blow up your knees and you're riding bikes like this, you want a little bit more scientific approach with it. But again, it's all preference. It's just what feels good for you. Again, on her gear selectors, she has these guide rails, okay? There's a guide rail here that I'll show you that her chain sits inside of that will guide it up and down on these things. And that's by this gear here, and you'll see this move as I turn that. That's what this one's doing, and she gets 3 options up here, and then she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options back here. She can do all but about 2 gears that I have over here. She can put it down to the easiest gear up here, and the easiest gear up here. I will still have 1 more click, and mine will be even easier than that. She can put it to the hardest gear up here for like going downhill, and the hardest gear down here for going downhill, but I'll still have 1 more click on her. I have 1 more click either way. If that's something you want to get, just look into that. In fact, I can show you here. This is what just one of these gears look like that are on the back of my bike. This is a pretty fancy gear that got some gentleman gave to me. So Eagle Technology, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, just like mine. So you can see all of those gears, right? And you can see the different sizes of them. On hers, she has half of that, and the half of it sits in there, and then she has a couple of gears up front that kind of make up that. But this gear and the lower gear are outside of her reach. Could I put this on her bike? Not really. It's not set up for it, okay? I could take this little gear off. To put this on there, I need some more width. And to do that, I would have to have the frame adjusted out a little bit more. To do that, you would need welding. You would need to heat it up and do stuff like that. There's a guy named Colin Furs who has a channel who does stuff like that. And he's good. He's got a good science down to it. I don't know enough about that to be able to do that myself. Maybe one day I could try it with some scrap bike or something like that. But as it sits right now, it's possible, but there's a lot of work going. It's just not a take off and put this one on and plug and play and go. Okay, it's going to be a lot, and then you're going to have to adjust a lot, and then you may have to switch out your lockers here because you don't want 3 and 12. I mean, you could, but it's going to get really weird and difficult. It's just going to be too much to deal with when you just want to go for a bike ride. It is possible to put them on some bikes or switch them out on bikes like mine. But on her bike, if I were to do that stuff, I'd probably have to look on the interwebs and find specific ones for her bike. Again, this is a Huffy Trail Runner. It's a Walmart bike. The colors are nice. She likes them. Just needed something simple. So I just got this and set it up for her. I had to readjust because Walmart's not going to do everything right. The seat was messed up. The gears were messed up. These weren't adjusted right. They didn't have the brake cables or the gear cables tensioned correctly. They had the fine tuners just either all the way screwed in or all the way out. And you get cheaper material, like the plastics here are not the greatest. You want to keep it in the garage and not let it sit out in the sun, you know. And it can take some abuse, but not a lot. One smart thing they did, especially for the kiddos out there, is they got this gear protector back here that I used to beat up all the time when I was young, but they have this bar that they put on the front of it. Could you fabricate something like that and bolt it onto your bike? Of course. Or weld it on there? Yeah. Keep in mind that anything you add to a bike is in ounces, and it adds weight. So the more weight you add to yourself and to the bike, it's going to get not as fun to pedal up a hill. With this bike, her cables run on the outside here. They don't run on the inside. That's fine. They can cause inconveniences in certain ways, and if something snagged these cables right here, that could cause problems too. Her gear selectors, like I said, this one on the right side runs the back wheel here, and she can just click to a number and it will set it accordingly. And same with the left side, she can click that to whatever number. Now, as far as handle adjustments between our two, mine's stuck. That's the way it is. I can't go up or down with it. Hers, we could actually adjust up and down. So that's one benefit that she has over me. I'd have to get an extender and stuff like that, but generally you want to get a mountain bike if you're going to set it up for a specific thing and your size and everything. You want to get it set up for you. Those are just going to be stuck like that. You don't want the handlebar really moving around on you. This, if I were to take it down extreme hills and jumps and stuff like that I could do with that, the handlebars are going to twist away from the wheel. So in other words, you're going to have the wheel go this way and the handlebars go that way. If you take it off and jump and land wrong, it's going to go bleh. Not fun when you're trying to ride down a hill. Mine is just going to stay solid and I can just bolt down a hill. Advantages and disadvantages. And again, the handles, you can have them bend any different ways. You can put any of the different kind of grips and stuff on here. And as far as brakes go, hers are different. She's got grippers on the front and rear, whereas I have the disc. Hers, I have the brakes that I've used my whole life. Okay. There are different types of pad brakes like this on how this whole upper mechanism works that goes over the tire. They can be set up a bunch of different ways. This one happens to be one of the more decent ones. Walmart bikes, they're actually trying to step up their game again a little bit. They're not as horrifying as they have been for a while. They're actually getting into it and starting to step up their game a little bit. Are they like high quality? No, they're about low to mid quality. This is like high to extreme quality. You can get a bike of low quality that does just fine for whatever you want to do. In fact, I wouldn't mind going getting a Walmart bike for myself just for simple cruises and stuff like that. Just keep in mind, you get what you pay for, and you're going to have to do some setup work, because not that you can't trust anybody, but you can't, and you just have to double check their double checks because they're not doing it. And most of the time when they hire individuals to put stuff together at places like a box store like that, they're not really knowledgeable to everything and the intricacies to everything. They do their best. They just try to get it together out of the box and then just put it on the showroom floor kind of deal. Do you want to take a car that was set up by a seasoned professional master technician at a dealer, or do you want to get a car that came from the manufacturer that the salesman put together? They're not going to have all the knowledge and intricacies of things that you're supposed to do, the types of fluid you're supposed to use, etc. So anyway, these brakes are not bad. These pads are easy changeable. They're easy adjustable. As you pull the trigger, what happens is it squeezes both of these together at the same time. It's going to move this one more than this one, and that's fine. It's set up for that. You have adjuster screws, and then you have the tension to set here. And everything that you do, every little adjustment, you have your fine adjustment up here, will adjust to how the brakes are going to road. So you want both pads to touch about the same time. You don't want one touching and the other one just floating, or the other one touching hard and the other one touching soft, etc. You want both equal pressure touching at the same time. The brakes on this, the way they work is these pads grab this rim. Mine doesn't have a rim like that. And because I have disc brakes. Disc brakes are obviously going to be a lot more superior to these, but these work just as fine as well. These will stop you from going on an incline like that. These, you're going to have some trouble and it's going to be scary. Trust me, I know. These do work pretty decently. We actually rode up Skyline Drive, which you may see in one of my videos, which is a pretty steep incline. We rode up the backside and then came back down. Coming back down, she just kind of held onto her brakes the whole time down and did just fine, but that's a pretty steep incline. Mine, I had no problem. I didn't have to really press on it. She was kind of have to watch what she was doing. But it was a good test and the bike did well and she got over her fear about it. Now on her pedals, they have little plastic tab stick outs here. Yeah, that's hurt my back a little bit. But if you look, she's got little stick outs. They're grippy, but they're not super grippy. That's something you can change and you can adjust. And you can change out the pedals and put different pedals in there and order them online. and you just got to make sure you got the right thread. Now, the thing about these pedals is they're going to have a reverse thread. So when you go to screw them in, because as you're pedaling, you don't want to unscrew your pedal. And that's why they were going to have that reverse thread. And her rear brake is going to be the same. It's just mounted up here. It doesn't matter where it's mounted. It'll pretty much operate the same. The thing is, you just don't want to get mud and debris and oils in that as well. The pads, you can't really do nothing about, but you want to go ahead and try to clean the oils and stuff off of there, so that way it's got a grippier surface. As far as tires go, she's got smaller tires, and I've got like 29-inch tires, 29 by 2.35. Mine can go up to 60 psi. Hers are obviously a lot smaller. It'll go up to 40 psi. 26-inch tire by 195. 26 and 29s. That's 3 inches of difference there. Keep in mind that when they set up a bike, it's not just the tire size that they're looking at. It's also, if you look at the distance between the handlebar where your hands are going to sit in the seat versus hers, there's going to be a shorter distance. So they're going to set it up on the distance from where your hands and your butt is. And they're also going to set it up from how high your handlebars are or how high your seat is. They're also going to set it up for how tall the bike is on this part versus the shock part. They're going to set it up for the same on the rear. And they're also going to set up for the length of the overall bike from axle point to axle point. And then from there, they're also going to set it up to have certain kind of tires. I could go with smaller tires on this if I wanted to turn better. You can order a separate set of tires for that. You'll have to set some things up differently, but for the most part, yeah, I wanted 29s because I wanted to have a little bit more speed, a little bit more flow. I don't really go down those trails like that where I'm going to be turning so rapidly. If I did, I could just order some smaller tires and go with that. My tires are set up to be tubeless. Right now, I have tubes in them. I didn't ride it that often. It just kept going flat, and it was a pain in the butt to kind of maintain. For now, I just put tubes in them, and I'm going with that. But at any time, and I started getting more severe with my mountain bike riding and start pointing it straight down the hill and want more grip and stuff like that, then I can change to no tubes, okay? All these kind of tires, they're not going to be set up for tubeless, okay? You're going to have tubes in them. I can also show you how to look for leaks and how to patch a leak, or how to change out a tire on the rim or the tube inside. Pretty simple stuff. Aside from that, you just set the PSI to like the kind of conditions you're going to be riding in, kind of terrain you're going to be on, whether it's asphalt or concrete, riding around in a park kind of deal, or just on some flat streets. Or if you're going to be riding up and down hills, or if you're going to be out in the trails in the dirt, you're going to be doing that. You want to set this up a little differently. You want to have grip, especially when you're going down hills. So you may go with a lower tire pressure. And if you're just riding along the street or in the park or just up and down some streets in your town, then you're going to probably want to go with a little higher PSI just so you have more ease of flow. It's going to be less difficult to pedal, and it's going to allow you to just kind of cruise down a hill. And you can kind of turn a little bit easier when you're on the street. If you got low pressure on the street with your tires when you're just on asphalt or concrete, it's going to turn weird, and it's going to grip, and it's going to catch edges, and it's going to just suddenly whip or get sloshy. It's going to feel kind of odd. But if you up that for the asphalt, then you'll be fine. Now on dirt, if you got too high a pressure and you try to turn, all that gravel and dirt's giving way under you, so it'll kick out and you'll slide down, or it'll turn the bars on you one way or the other. So it's the opposite. So you want less pressure, so you got more surface area that's going to make contact with the ground to grip and have more area to grip. Same thing with vehicles. Same thing with motorcycles. Aside from that, there's it's not much more differences than some small things like that. The basic thing, they both have wheels, a seat, handlebars, brakes, gears, and you get on them and you pedal and you go. This is a great way to stay in shape. Now, if you have an electric e-bike, I don't know anything about those. I don't have one. I've never ridden one. It's not my thing. I'm not interested in those. I think they're awesome for certain reasons. Generally speaking, what I like to do with it, for me, that would be kind of cheating. I don't like it when I was at work or places where people I went mountain biking this weekend too. It's great exercise. I'm like, oh, cool. What kind of bike do you have? Well, it's one of those e-bikes. I don't even have to pedal. Really? Really? Just go get a motorcycle. I have a motorcycle for when I don't want to pedal, okay? E-bike is the same thing. Now, exercise, get yourself an exercise bike or get an actual pedal bike. It's going to suck at first when you get back into it, believe you me. But after a few minutes, things are going to come back to you, and then you're going to try to do some jumps. You're going to fall on your ass and bruise your tailbone and ride around a semi-truck with a bruised tailbone. But it's going to be a story to tell, right? It's going to be fun. I don't know, for all you guys out there, chicks dig scars, so why not? For all you ladies, you really want to get in shape and get that nice exterior rump thing going on, then pedal action is the way to go. Get on a bike and go. All right, I'm going to move this guy out of the way, and I'm going to start with this guy. I'm going to show you how to set up a bike stand. We'll get that on there, and we'll go from there. I moved our bike over here, and I moved hers out of the way, so we got the basic bike stand here. This is just an inexpensive one that I found on the interwebs, and I don't know where I got it from. I don't recall how much it was, but I know it wasn't too much at all. It's got some generic plastic parts on it, and it's made out of aluminum, but for the most part, it does what I need it to do, okay? There's way more better ones out there, way more better. Okay, I got to work on my wording, I guess. So anyway, there's way more better ones out there. And they all kind of function and do the same thing. So it just depends on basically kind of like how the stand sits on the ground, how high it goes, and then what kind of way it's going to hold up a bike and mount to the bike. Depending on what kind of bike you have is maybe depending on what kind of clamp or grabber onto thingy that goes onto the bike. As far, yeah, you know, and another thing in my videos, if you see me cutting a lot of stuff out, I end up doing this and but okay, all right, so constantly, and it is driving me nuts. So I'm going to slow down and try to do a little bit better at that. So I don't do as much editing. With this stand, 3 parts that you're going to need is the lower stand part itself, which is going to contain this middle part where this hole extends out. That's all going to be one piece. Then you got 2 other pieces. You're going to have the part that clamps onto the bike, which is what I got right here, and that goes in the side, and you can adjust it however you need to, and the clamps clamp down on it, and you're good to go. Trying to get it up there is another thing. With my back, especially doing what it's doing, this ought to be interesting to watch today. This is in a little adjuster with these little rubber straps. I'll show you what that does. It basically keeps the handlebar straight, so it's not flopping back and forth on you while it's on the stand. And I'll show you how to tie that down too. So we're going to set these aside for now. We're going to get this set up the way we want. First, you got these legs. They fold out just like a drum stand for your cymbals. Same kind of thing. It just folds up like that, or some tent pole or anything like that. So depending on how much space you got or where you want it at or how high you're going to put it, I just like a lot of stability, so I'm going to put those legs way out there like that. And then I'll lock it down. It's going to have some good stability, okay? It's got these feet that go out, but they're plastic and there's not much grip on them. You could probably tape grippies onto the bottom if you wanted to, but I like to be able to maneuver it around pretty easy if I need to. Now, it doesn't matter where the legs go, just make sure you're not going to trip over them. And then you're going to have this part that extends out. How far? Well, we're going to put that bike up pretty high, and where it clamps onto on mine, it's going to be that top bar. So if the top bar is here and everything's down here, so I'm thinking about it where I want to work on the gears and show you guys stuff. So I'm going to have to go up pretty high. Now this thing goes up pretty darn high. I mean, I'm 5'11", so that's above 6 feet right there. So that's kind of nice. So I don't need that high. I probably need to ride about maybe there. We'll go with that. So I'm going to clamp that down and then turn it to make it tighter, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, I'm going to loosen that up. And again, for anybody that comes onto my channel that knows all of this stuff already, I'm going over little, you know, all the little details because maybe someone just doesn't know. Maybe someone doesn't know how this works. That's fine. I don't believe anybody is out there stupid. I believe everybody can figure this out, but sometimes you just don't know stuff. But that's what the interwebs are for. I know I'm not the only source out there. I know there's other people doing a lot of bike videos. I know there's artificial intelligence and Google. Go out there, find that stuff, you know. I'm just one part. I'm just a stepping stone to a bigger world is basically what I'm looking at it at. I'm going to get you started. You want more details, you want to learn more about it, go see the guys that do this stuff professionally. That's, you know, that they go to like these mountain terrain parks and point their bikes straight down a hill. I watch them. It's awesome. There's one that happens over in the Europe area, this massive downhill thing that takes like 30 minutes to an hour to go down this mountain, and they scream down this mountain. And they start off in snow and ice, and then they start shooting down the mountain, and then they come out of it, out of the snow and everything, and it's just rough terrain and stuff like that. And then they get down into the towns where they start riding through towns and streets and sidewalks and weird pathways and stuff like that. And they have to cook the entire time. I mean, they're breathing hard and they're just cooking, man. It is insane. I forget what the name of the challenge is, this downhill challenge, but it's cool. It starts off with like 100+ bikers, and they do it every year, and you get to see what it takes. And I am not interested in that. That looks cool, and I think it'd be fun to go try going down that mountain at my own pace without a million people around me. Other people may be interested in that kind of pressure, that kind of competition. And by all means, if that's something you want to work for, go check out that video. It's going to take a minute to work up to that. You know, at one point in time, I probably could have done that, but I'm old and broken now, and I have no interest. You know, I have to get over to Europe. That's a lot of money. Going to Europe and being in Europe probably isn't, you know, much money. Just kind of when I went over to Egypt, there wasn't much money once you're in Egypt. Tried to get there. on these expensive flights, that's the problem. Shoved in like sardines in a can, and you pay ungodly amounts of dollars, you know. And what kind of meal service do you want on your 24-hour flight? Well, good food, you know. Oh, okay, here's a carrot and a peanut. Do you want to wash that down with some asparagus water? Hey, is that door open? I want to jump out. Not really. I wouldn't do that. It's a joke, so don't get all freaked out, people, and don't mark me as a security risk for flights, because I'm not. Anyway, this part is going to go into here. Get it wiggled into there so I can see how my frame's going to kind of sit there. So I'm going to aim this down. No, I'm going to put it like this because I want the strength here, and then I'll clamp down to it on the top. I'm going to kind of sit it in there like that. It's going to sit in there at a weird angle, so I'm going to angle it kind of like that, and I'm going to open it up all the way as far as I can so it's easier to slip in there. And there, don't worry, you can't unscrew this all the way. There's washers down here, lock washers, that will stop once you get it up all the way. Now here, I got a pretty decent angle at that and everything like that. I'm going to tighten that down, and I'm really going to tighten that down because I don't want that turning. Kind of wants to turn, but not really. I want to make sure that that's nice and clamped tight. In fact, I'm going to take this and give it one more turn. So you can do this and turn it straight up, perpendicular, up and down, and you can clamp onto the seat, but I don't have a lot of room there, so that's why I've always tried to clamp it here. Bikes are really light compared to, like, my wife's Huffy is actually a little heavier than this, believe it or not. The types of materials that they use for some of these bikes, and the bike from 1990 that was my dad's that I inherited, that I rode for years, that is even lighter than this, if you can believe it. That's crazy, but it is. So it slips in just like that. Kind of want to get in the middle. So now I'm going to clamp this down. Just keep the bike steady. It's taking the weight of it right now. I'm still going to be cautious just in case it decides to snap or something like that. Now your bike is suspended in the air, okay? Yeah, I don't know why I had you guys aiming at the ground. I apologize about that, but I'll get better with the camera work. Anyway, now you can work on everything. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you guys over here, and I'm going to show you how this wheel comes off. And I'll show you closer up of all the details of the bike. All right, guys, let's show you some basic things about your bike, or a bike, or any bike, really. There's going to be different ways between her Huffy and my giant stance that is going to change the way that your tire is going to come off, or the way your brakes are going to work, or the way your shock's going to work, or the way your gears are going to work. Again, this is a 1x12, okay? So if you count the gears here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, this is your chain guide that, if you can see here, as it's lined up, as you flick your switches up there, or you turn your knob, or you press up and down, it's going to move this piece here back and forth with these little gears. As that moves, these are tensioners, and it's spring loaded, so it's keeping tension on this chain. And so that way, as it moves, it's going to change tension, and it's going to go up or down on the gear, and it's only going to go a little bit. The way you set that up is just going to be kind of something completely different. If you guys want to see how to properly adjust these, let me know. I'll do a video about it, okay? But for now, I'm just going to tell you the basics of how it works, okay? There's going to be a couple different settings. The main one you want to focus on is making sure that the chain stops on this gear and doesn't go any farther, because if it does, it's going to get bound up in the side over here, and then you're going to have to try to dig it out. You can see the little bit of grease from just about a little bit of touching that's getting on. You're going to get a lot of grease all over your hands, so wear gloves. The other setting, or it's going to be the same setting on some bikes, is going to keep the chain from getting bound up in here, which this one really can't really, but it will just ride on the top here, which it has done on me, and I had to readjust it. And you don't want that chain coming past that last gear and past that last gear. It needs to stay within the gear framing. The other adjustment is just going to be making sure that it goes to each gear smoothly and efficiently, and doesn't skip a gear and up or down, and that it doesn't make a clicking sound when it's going around on that gear. You just want it to be nice and smooth. So you can see how that works back here. It's pretty simple when you look at it, or when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, but I'll show you on a different video how to adjust all of that. This is just going to be a basic get to know your bike kind of tutorial video. So now, on your disc brakes, it's going to be different. Like on her bike over there, it's going to be the pads, and I'll get that up on here and show you that difference in a minute. On disc brakes, again, you got the disc, and you got two pads, one on either side, that clamp down on this disc, okay? So as this turns, it's going to clamp down on it, and then it's not going to move. The way you take off a tire On this bike, her bike is going to be different. You're going to have to unbolt that, but it still will come out the same way, but it just has a different pin through system. This system is a simple, easy release. So you would flick this open and then you can turn it a couple times to loosen it up. And what that's going to do is that it's going to allow this to collapse a little bit. Actually on this one, it's going to allow it to come loose a little bit this way so it can slide out the bottom. Now, on the back tire, it's going to be kind of difficult because you kind of have to get it off the chain, get the chain off of this gearing system, and this is all going to stay with the bike. These two little gears, the chain, and this. The gears with the disc are going to come with the tire off. And when it does, I don't know if you can see right here, this is the little pads that are inside of there. They're going to stay, and the rotor's going to have to slide back up into them when it comes back onto the bike. So if you look down here and you can see this little slot right here, this slot is where the axle is going to come out. So it just slips right back up into there on both sides. On the front tire, it's a little different. Again, you got that flip lever that's on the other side that I'll flip here in a second and loosen up. And then this whole pole is going to pull through and out. And then this is all going to drop down. Again, the discs will stay, the rotor will come with the tire, and I'll show you that right now. What's going to happen is all little fan out deals. When I release that lever, it's going to loosen this so it can come this way, and this will collapse inward, and then I can pull it through. And it's a reverse process when you put it back on. Here's what's supposed to happen. You can take and just push on this here, and see how it collapses those pins under the, it's a holder. So boom, now it's going to go through. So now the pin's going to come out the other side. Now keep in mind when I do this tire is going to drop. So I'm going to hold the camera and pull this pin out at the same time. So I'm going to hold the tire. As I do this, this is going to want to spin on me. So you got to be careful about that. I'm going to go ahead and slide that out. Boom. Now the bike wants to go spinning on me. So you let it go just a little bit. And that's fine. That is it. You have this whole pole that comes out, you know, and it's greased up. And then you have just the disc rotor on the tire itself. Now you can change out the tube, or you can change out the tire, or do any repairs you need to. Now you see the spokes all have these different little tensioners on them and everything like that. Take it to a professional shop, okay? They're going to be able to have the tools and be able to tension this properly, because all these spokes are doing, they're holding this centerpiece in. They get tensioned wrong, this one's tighter than one of them over there, it could cause a whole mess of issues. And again, these tires are going to have a different setup on them. They're going to have, this does have tubes like a normal bike, but here's the deal with it. This air fill nozzle with the Schrader valve is all one piece. So the Schrader valve, now this cap comes off, and the Schrader valve, it's a lot thinner than a normal one. And this opens up, and now that'll let air out. It's made to do that, so if you're riding and you let a little air out for a trail, you can do that. Then I have my little bike pump that's on my thing where I can plug that onto here and pump it back up. But then it's made to lock down, so it's a lot more difficult for air to escape that way. So it's locked down now. I put my cap on to keep the debris out. Always put your caps on. Debris gets down in there, no bueno. Now, this may have some small leak, but it took all winter to just go down this much, and that's several months. So that's like 6 months that I haven't ridden the bike. I think the leak that we're looking at is probably just very insignificant. You shouldn't have to worry about it. It's not going to go flat on the ride. Now, if you're on a ride and it starts going flat on you, that's why you have a little pump with you. You can get those online as well, and you know, get to attach them to your bike in any way. You may duct tape it on there if you want. The other thing too is that there's gas stations and stuff like that around. You can probably get some air out at our shop, you know, just to get you home, or just call someone with a truck. The deal with these are they're also locked in there with this nut, so that way they're secured. Okay, the ones on like my wife's bike are just kind of free floating. Okay, and they're rubber. And the Schrader valve that I opened here, that's called a Schrader valve, and those exist on cars too. But the Schrader valve on hers, like in cars tire stems, are inside of it. You have to get a special tool to try to screw that out. Okay, and that's an easy way to deflate it, but you don't really have to. You just push a little button in and it lets the air out. That's the basics of the tire here. You can see how shiny the brake is. Well, I can take some rough, very fine grit sandpaper, and I can just easily go over it with by hand. You don't want to get like a power unit on this. No sanders, no die grinders or anything like that. You know, because it's going to take off too much material and make it oblong, and you're going to have wobbly brakes, or it's not going to work right. But I just want to rough it up. And what that's going to do is help stop the squeaking. And you can also go ahead and get some rubbing alcohol in here, and then use a flame, like a little torch thing. Like I have one right here. And what that does is, so I'm going to go ahead and fire that up. I don't know if you can see that flame right there. You can hear it. And you're going to take and apply that to just heating up the surface on there. You don't want to make it glowing hot or use enough heat to cause damage, but you're going to use enough heat that it just burns off all the oils and the crap that's on there. Brakes are meant to take heat, okay? That's why there's so many holes drilled in it, to help dissipate the heat. And that's why it's set up like this, because if it was just solid, it's going to keep that heat and hold on to it, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. But if it can dissipate that heat and have airflow, and the air can flow around it and cool it off, that's where all those holes exist. So when it leaves the pad and it comes out here and it's whipping through the air, even though it's like milliseconds, that's still a good amount of time and enough to go ahead and cool off the metal itself. That way your brakes stay cooler, they work more effectively, and you don't get what's called brake fade. If you don't know what brake fade is, we could talk about that later, but it happens to a lot of semi-truck drivers, and it's a scary proposition when you can't stop something that you're behind the wheel of, no matter if it's a pedal bike, a motorcycle, a car, or a semi-truck. Even planes have brake fade. Not all the time. Plane maintenance is like superb. They don't mess around with that. Those things are getting checked constantly. If your battery stalls in the car, you can just pull to the side of the road and just be mad. If your battery or engine stalls when you're in the sky, kind of a different situation. You're tightening up your seatbelt or looking for a parachute or a place to land, or yeah, it's not pleasant. How do I know that? Because I started taking flight lessons, and I'm looking to do that one day. I'll get more into that later. So I got some experience there as well. And again, I have a CDL, so I've driven semi-trucks. I've got a motorcycle. I ride mountain bikes. I do a lot of little everything. I'm not mastering anything, so I don't know all of this. But what I do know, I will share with you guys. Okay, so you have your disc rotor, right? So your disc rotor is going to go up inside of here, inside of these pads right there. Okay, you see how those pads sit in there? That's where the disc is going to slide into. Okay, when you pull that brake lever, it's pinching those together onto the disc. I'll pull those out another time and show you what those look like if we do brake maintenance. I'm going to reverse what I did to put the tire back on, and it's going to be pretty simple. Again, with this guy right here, all you're going to be looking at doing is when you tighten it down, those fins are going to pop back out. So you see how they popped back out like that? If I push down on that, they will lock back in. So it gets kind of sticky. I guess I should lube that up at some point. But once I do that, it'll automatically do that to be able to come back through the tire. So it gets out the other side, it's going to pop open, and you can tighten it down, and it's not going anywhere. Again, you're just going to take your rotor, and you're going to line it up in between the two pads. Boom, just like that. So I'm going to hold it in place with my body, and then I'm going to stick this all the way through, get it out the other side, and I can let go. Now this bike's going to level off again. And then now that's popped. So now I'm going to go ahead and see that's still not enough tension. So I'm going to tighten it down a little bit. That's pretty good right there. That's not going anywhere, okay? So now it spins. And so now I can press the brake lever, and it locks the brake. Now, you remember I said there's a third part to this stand? What it's going to be is this guy right here. So it's got the two rubber flaps. And all these come around and they attach right here. And you can see how they just kind of pop on here like that. All that does is make a little loop, put that around your handlebar, or, and then you can put this part around part of the bike stand and adjust the length here. When you put that on there, it keeps the handlebars from moving back and forth like so. Now, it's not going to allow my handlebars to move. Well, if I tighten that down. Okay, so now it's just going to be stuck. Okay, so my handlebars are going to be staying in one place. That's all that bar is meant to do. And just to take it off, just pull that, and then you can pull that, and it comes right off, and you're good to go. So again, pretty simple. When you get it up on a stand, even if you don't have a stand and you want to flip it upside down, you can do that too. But you want to turn your pedals, and you want to make sure that it's free and it's changing. You want to go through your gears, and you want to flip your gears here. So as you're going around with your gears, so just start clicking your gears. Just want to make sure it goes through all gears nice and smooth. There's no clicking, no clacking. Okay, I'm going to get you guys a little closer shot on that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start clicking through these gears so that way you guys can see what's going on here. I'm going to flip these switches right here. As I go through these switches, you'll hear them clicking. You're going to see how this works in action. So I'm going to go ahead and start turning my wheel. As I turn my wheel, I'm going to have to pause because I have to hold the camera at the same time. So notice on each gear, it's nice and smooth transition. It's not binding. It's not making clicky clacky sounds like it's catching on something. That's a good smooth shift right there. What you're looking for is you want to make sure that when this gear goes, it's going to go exactly where you want it to go. See how it just jumps up onto that next gear, that sprocket, smooth. That freewheel click, that's fine, but you don't want this making noise. So now I'm going to go ahead and click this all the way down, and we'll see what it does. Watch how smooth this goes. See, it just jumped a bunch of those. See how smooth that is, and there's no noise. That's what you want to have happen. Different bikes are going to do differently, but for the most part, if it's making noise, then you got this chain rubbing on the sprocket next to it, or the inside is rubbing on the sprocket it's on, trying to jump to that next gear. You don't want that. You want it just to stay on this gear and be happy there and not want to go anywhere for a minute. So that's how you have to set that up. And when you get it down here, do a couple more clicks here. Okay, you see how it jumped into that last slot and it doesn't go anywhere else? It's a tight fit, but it could potentially try to hop off of there if I had this derailleur set up differently and I didn't have it adjusted to stop right there, then it would have tried to jump up on the back frame. On the other bikes, like Julie's over here, what it would do is get stuck in the middle. Same thing on the top. If I go all the way to the top here, then I don't want the chain jumping off and getting behind there. So when I switch this all the way up, it actually stays on this gear and it doesn't want to go any farther and will not allow me to make it go any farther. That's what you want. It all has to do with the screws being adjusted to adjust how this is going to work and the stoppers in it. It also depends on how tight the cable tension area is. Cable tension can be adjusted several ways. On this one, this is that excess that's pulled off there. You would have to loosen and tighten a bunch of stuff here. And when you do that, and then you can pull this tighter and tighter and using different tools. You can do that on any bike, but you want to set a basic tension. It doesn't need to be too tight. All your adjustments on any brakes or any derailleur, whether it's on the rear or the front gear set, your derailleur, you just need some basic tension between here and your handle where your gear selector or your brake is going to be. Same thing for your gears back here. Now, as far as the cable goes, you want it to be taut, okay? You don't want any slack, so you want to make sure it's as tight as possible. So then when you do give it slack, it gives it a reason to switch and do what it has to do. And when you pull it tight, it gives it a reason to climb to the next gear. And when it goes slack up there from switching a gear, it knows it can release itself and come back down a gear. That's the science to it. This is how you set the air pressures on them. If I pop that cap off right there, there is a fill nozzle in there. I'll go ahead and just unscrew that for you. And inside of here is your little plug-in port, and that's how you fill up the air on your shocks. And they actually feed into each other, so you don't have to worry about that. So then you just set up your fine tune here. You can see here, it's called your rebound. I call it fine tune. They call it rebound. How quickly do you want it to bounce back up from compressing? That kind of thing. If you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and get her bike up on here so you guys can see that in action as well. Okay, guys, here we have my wife Julie's bike. Notice that the brakes that are on mine are Shimano, and she has Shimano brakes too. It's just going to be different. She actually has also Shimano shifter on the back as well. So again, Walmart stuff is actually not as horrible as it used to be. They're actually stepping up their game on it. And again, this is a pretty name brand, Huffy right here. It's the Trail Runner, dual suspension technology. They'll put all these fancy stickers on it to make it sound like it's the best thing ever, but it is what it is. Now you'll see here that again, she has 3 and 6. What's 6 times 3? Oh, are we sure? Do the math. Go get your calculators, Google it, whatever. Or, 1, 2, 3. Carry the 1. Anyway, this is an 18 speed versus like 10 speed versus, others that you can have. So she's going to have 3 on the front, 6 on the rear. And what that means is she's going to have 2 shifters up here, okay? So she's going to have a selector here for the rear. And then the left side is going to be for the front. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She's going to have her brakes. She's not going to have any fancy seat button like I have that makes the seat go up and down. For different occasions, and again, her cables run on the entire outside of her bike, which is not really a big deal. Why they did this, I guess it just gives you a visual and you can kind of check to see what's tight and what is not. And I know these are not tight and I have them that way on purpose just for a reason, but I can make them tighter, okay? But this one's taut right now because it is a shifting cable. This cable right here, if we follow it, it's all the way back to our rear derailleur. So you do want that one tight, okay? The other ones just go to the brakes. I have pulled and tightened them a little bit, but if I pull too much tension on those, It's just going to keep the brakes constantly clamped on the tire, and then you're going nowhere. This is a Shimano derailleur, so what this is going to do is about the same as mine. It's going to be a different deal when you go and pedal here. See how it shifted like that? See, it goes all the way down to the bottom there. And right here, my handle is catching on the bike stand because just how I have it right now. I can set it up to not do that, but right now I did. And the main reason is because right here, I have it too far pushed in. So if I push that out, I'll have some more room. But I'm just doing this for the video to show you guys for a minute. So anyway, you see here on her last one, the gear can get stuck in there. Now the gear has come off several times, and that's what this plastic guard is for, okay? This plastic guard right here is to help keep the chain from getting too damaged and lodged in there. If it gets lodged in there to cause too much damage to the spokes, it's a spoke protector from the chain. This actually has happened where the chain has gotten lodged in there, but I adjusted that. And this is a more basic system than mine is, but I adjusted with these little screws right here, and you have these on any bike. And if you guys want me to show you the basic setup on a basic mountain bike like this, no problem. Like, subscribe, and then comment down below. Get to typing, and from there I'll read it and I'll go, oh, okay, and I'll put a like or a little heart thingy next to it. I'll respond to you, and then I will also go ahead and make a video that I show you how to adjust your derailleurs for just a basic bike, you know, whether it comes from Walmart or anywhere or online. And I will show you how to adjust your super complicated but fun to ride super bikes. So I don't know what's going on with my gimbal stick right now. It's like decides to do whatever it wants to do. It's like, oh, I want to look over here. And I'm like, no, I want you to go that way. It's like, no. On her brake pads here, you can see how they make contact with the tire itself. As these come around, watch right here. As I do this, it squeezes both of them together. You want them to come together equally like that and press evenly on the pad. Now, these pads, they can be adjusted to swivel back and forth. So you want to make sure they're in line with your rim, okay? You want to make sure your rim is clean and free of any oils and debris, okay? As much as possible when you first start out of your, and when you wash your bike and everything like that. It's just general maintenance, okay? Just like you would with a car. You don't want to just ride these all the time and then just put them up, drop them on the ground like we used to when we were kids, okay? It costs money, they wear and tear, and they break down a lot faster. And then you start pedaling your butt off, you start going down a steep hill and realize suddenly these don't work. That's when you end up with broken collarbones like I did. I've done all the things like I've taped this wire up out of the way so it doesn't bug her. And I can clamp it with some actual metal clamps if I need to, but I wanted to be able to access it and pull tension on it again if I needed to in the future, so I just taped it up out of the way. This one was actually kind of sticking out this way, so I taped that out of the way too. So it's another thing with Walmart bikes. They, for some reason, didn't have the little fancy ends on it. Those went missing when it was put together like this, to keep it from fraying like that, to keep it from poking into your leg when you're pedaling. She kept thinking she was getting bit by a wasp or a bug or something. It was freaking her out. Then I realized what it was, so I had to tape those out of the way. This is just some Gorilla tape. I wrapped around it several times, okay? If I wash a bike and stuff, they may come loose, so you can use zip ties or whatever you want, but also make sure it's not gonna, you know, you don't wanna tape this or bind it to the frame when this has to move back and forth, because then this is going to be causing tension here. And yeah, just don't do that. So I just attached to there. And on the front derailleur, come on, calm down, gimbal stick. So on the front derailleur, same thing. I made sure that it was in line with the same wire, not going to bind up in any way. The front derailleur, same thing. So you can see here, this front derailleur actually pushes the chain like this, you know, like my finger would here, just with the metal part going back and forth. And again, you don't want to get stuck up in here or falling off completely, which it has done. But I've got that pretty much resolved for now. And again, she has a rear shock as well, but it's spring instead of air shock. It just kind of is what it is. But you can still set the tension with this, which I have for her, so that way it's more comfortable ride. And you can see how this triangle frame, the black part, is separated from the rear part of the frame. And so there's nothing connecting here like on normal bikes or on my bike. And that's so they can have a pivot point, and then the connection point between the two frames on the top is this shock. When she's going up and down, it swivels this tire up like that and pushes into the shock, and it gives you some shock absorption. So that way that doesn't go and vibrate all up into you. Same thing on the front. She's got these front shocks, which are not, not as superb as mine, but it's better than nothing. Actually protects your shoulders and your elbows and your wrists and your joints. It helps when she's hitting bumps and going off the sidewalk, curbs, and stuff like that. So it's pretty pleasant. She remembers riding a bike that didn't have this or that rear shock, and she was like, no, this is not okay. So again, front brake, same way. So these tires, like mine, are tube. Okay, mine can be tubeless, these cannot. So on this one, these are a lot thicker. Now, never just take these caps off and throw them away. They're there for a purpose. So get these. Don't have some, get some and put them on. It's going to keep this nice and clean inside here, because that Schrader valve that's down in there, you can push that little button right there to let out the air, but that little Schrader valve becomes stopped up and gummed up with debris and dirt and bugs and whatever, then you got to change out your whole tube. This is part of this whole tube, and notice that it's flimsy and it can move it around, whatever. It's just kind of sitting against the hole of the rim right here, whereas mine has that locking nut that keeps it solid and won't be bothered. It's got a metal innard, but it's surrounded by rubber to help protect it, okay? So that now attaches the inner tube, and then you got your tire around that inner tube. If you want to see how to change a tire, or how to change an inner tube, or how to check for an air leak, and then how to patch it so you can save and keep reusing your inner tubes or replacing an inner tube, just let me know in the comments below. Get to typing, and I will make a video on that. I will make a video on how to set up your gearing. I will make a video on how to adjust and set up your brakes or replace the pads, how to set tension on your wires. If you want to know how to adjust your seat even, because a lot of people don't think about this, but there's swivel points here, okay? And it can go forward and back, as well as it can tilt up and down. That all depends, because this is going to be on a sensitive region on anybody. You want this to be nice and comfortable. Unless you're a crazy mountain biker just pointing down a hill where you don't use the seat, then whatever. On your handlebars, you want to know how to replace these? Let me know. I'll show you easy ways to do that. And up here, here's another part of this. So on only your gear selector, but also on your brakes, you're going to have fine-tune adjustments. And you can see this one has a turn knob as well. So if something's not acting right, don't just go switching these and turning these all. They're all part of an intricate system that has to be delicately balanced with the other components that they're operating on, which is fine. It's not as pain in the butt as you would think, but that's not an easy just go ahead and turn that, maybe my brakes and my shifting gets better. It's not going to be the case, okay? These actually help to put tension on the cable itself, and depending on how much tension's on there, depending on how you set that up back there on either component, is depending on what that's going to affect and do. Most of the time, it's not going to resolve what you're thinking. The handlebars on hers, unlike mine are just, they're solid. They're not going anywhere, okay? They can't move, they can't go up and down. Hers, I can unscrew this and loosen this a little bit, and I can move them up and down. I can even line them up so they're a little bit straighter with the front tire, okay? I can even remove this handlebar or move it or flip it upside down or whatever you want to do if you guys want to know about stuff like that. I've done that with that older bike of mine, and I'm probably going to do that here too. If you want to see me fix that thing up and go through the whole thing, I will do that too. So let me know what you guys want in the video there. But some basic know-how and knowledge of how a basic bike works or a complicated bike works. That's all I'm trying to do here, right? So looking to inspire. It's the season. It's springtime. You can hear the wind chimes going. The trees are blooming. I'm sneezing my butt off. It's the time to get out and start riding a bike. Again, you can switch out your pedals too, and you can go ahead and get ones that have metal spikes on them, or you can get these generic ones that have those spikes. My wife doesn't really like these because her foot keeps slipping off, so I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and get her some different ones so she can enjoy the bike ride a little bit more. And again, the gimbal stick is just freaking out. All right, guys, well, so that's pretty much going to be it for this part of this tutorial. It's just going to be a simple, just going over all the different components of the bike. Now, if you want to start learning about all this and you want to see how to properly wash your bike and everything like that, I'm going to make a couple other videos. Let me know in the comments below what you specifically want to know and what you want me to specifically go over. All right, guys, well, that's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and take off. Again, my name is Sean. This is 369 VNP, and we'll see you later.